to Ben Harris-Quinney, who is the chairman of the Bow Group. Ben, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, James.
When is this all going to get finished? I'm getting fed up with it.
Well, I can well imagine you are, but we are at sort of penalty shootout cup final moments in terms of I know that's been said many times before, but maybe we've had a few
Actually,
too
Ben,
many
that's
big,
the first time I've heard it.
No,
That's very good.
Oh, well, there you go, breaking new ground. But I think tonight's vote is a fork in the road, because if the government wins, we're leaving with no deal. That's my inclination. If
Are
the
you upset about
loses,
that? Are you concerned about that, Ben?
Yeah, I'm concerned about it, but I'm not upset about it, because I think the most important thing is that the democratic integrity of Britain is upheld, and we push that vote, that the instructions that the British public gave Parliament and the government is implemented. I think that's more important than any of the minutiae of exactly how it happens. And I think Boris is right to realise that, to acknowledge that, and to say, come what way, he will give blood, sweat and tears to ensure we leave by the 31st of October. But if the government lose the vote tonight, that means that Boris Johnson is no longer in control. He hasn't had much time in control, but he will no longer be in control, and then we're very much going into the general election territory. I think his response to the SNP this afternoon was quite indicative, when he said that he has full intention to uphold the law, which suggests that he's not looking to make a constitutional challenge or to try and lobby the monarch to intervene. It seems like what he was saying, that if he loses the vote tonight, he will go for a general election. And I don't actually think he has much to fear from a general election. The real question is, can an accommodation from his point of view be made with the Brexit party? But I certainly don't think that Jeremy Corbyn presents a real threat, and in terms of gaining majority government. And I think Tony Blair was quite right, rarely right, yesterday, in saying that Labour should fear a general election far more than the Tories.
Ben, Nick Dubois is with me. He wants to say something.
Ben, hi, good evening to you. Do you think the really robust stand that Boris took by saying, if you vote against the government, you are losing the whip, and apart from losing the whip, you will not be able to stand as a candidate, has that helped or hindered him tonight?
Well, I think what Labour is facilitating, or what the Remainers are facilitating, is they're setting up Boris as a man of the people versus those politicians, those dastardly politicians in Westminster, and I think that will be all to Boris's credit in any election. I think that he is right to take decisive action, because as the last caller demonstrated, I think people are absolutely exasperated at the lack of action. They're tired of Westminster waffling, and they want to see something actually occur. It's been 3 years, and so I think a lot of people will admire Boris's decisiveness, his you're either with us or against us attitude, because I think the clock has run out, and the public want action.
Ben, what do you think about the there seems to be a huge groundswell of opinion within Parliament that this is all going the wrong way, it's not being handled right, we're going to crash out with no deal. But I don't actually hear any positive suggestions coming from the Labour Party or the other side of the argument at all.
Well, the Labour Party simply won't clarify their position, because they stood in the last general election as being a party that was going to implement Brexit. They said they wouldn't support the withdrawal agreement. They said they wouldn't support a no-deal exit. They haven't given any clarity on what something that the Labour Party would support would look like, and with a realistic sense of it coming to pass from a Conservative government. So I think the Labour Party are just trying to play devil's advocate, and actually they've ended up having their lunch eaten by the Liberal Democrats, which is probably why, when you're seeing these defections that are occurring, they're to the Lib Dems rather than to Labour, because the Lib Dems, much as it is a position I disagree with, are operating with clarity on what their position is, which is just to remain in the EU.
Ben, very quick one. If we go to election on October the 14th, given it's before Brexit, do you see the Conservatives losing some seats to the Liberal Democrats, regardless if they pick some up in the north?
Net, no. I think, yes, there will be losses to the Lib Dems in individual cases, but net, I think if a very generous proposal to Boris today, Steve Baker has come out in support of it, and I think if the Brexit Party and the Conservative Party can find a way to work together, then there will actually be a better governing coalition majority in Parliament to get things done than there is now. The danger, of course, is that we have a general election and we end up in another hung Parliament with a few deck chairs moved in either direction, and we can't actually move forward. And I think that's, despite anything else, I think where the country is wanting progress rather than this quagmire. So I hope that people can sort of put the old ways of doing things behind them and start to think more creatively. Previously the Conservative Party was very resistant to anything to do with Nigel Farage, but I think we've got to wake up to the political reality in the same way that the Remainers have done, and start to work together to make progress for the country, because this quagmire works for no one.
Ben, thank you very much indeed. That's Ben Harris-Quinney, who is the chairman of the Bow Group, right-wing organisation.
It's a think tank.
It's a think tank, yeah. I'm going to start a think tank. Do you want to be part of it?
I'd like to review that with you later.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's exactly what we'll be doing.
Because I'm not sure how much thinking will be going into it.
Well, there won't be much thinking, but we'll come up with all kinds of propositions, and
we can fire policy from the hip.
Exactly, exactly. And all we need to do is get someone to fund us, and then we're made, aren't we?
I can help.
Yeah.
I'll find someone.
Right.
I'll nip over to the Lords now.
Do that.
They're bound to be
Yeah.
300 quid a day. They can spare something for us.